Hi, my name's Sonu Lamba, and today we're making my favorite fall soup, minestrone. Minestrone is an Italian soup. It's usually vegetarian. It's a soup that's basically made with vegetables, and it's made with beans. You can add potatoes and pasta to it. I like mine very, very simple. So I start with a base. My base is usually a mirepoix. A mirepoix is carrots, some celery, and yellow onion. And this really helps perfume my soup. This is the base. This will contribute the most flavor to it. So I'm gonna cook this in some extra virgin olive oil. After that, to it, I'm gonna add some garlic. Now, since I'm not adding too many vegetables to this, I'm gonna add a lot of garlic because I want a bunch of flavor in this. So 5 cloves of garlic. I'm also gonna be adding some navy beans. Typically, we add cannellini beans to minestrone. I don't have cannellini beans. This is the bean that's closest to a cannellini bean. So I'm gonna add about half a can of these navy beans. This will add some protein to my minestrone. I am also gonna add some mushroom broth. If you have vegetable broth, that's totally fine too. I feel the mushroom flavor with the tomatoes, these particular tomatoes, imparts a wonderful flavor to my soup. So I'm gonna use 4 cups of mushroom broth. I'm going to reconstitute these cubes in some boiling hot water, and that is my broth. Finally, in the end, I like to add some Swiss chard to my minestrone. You can also add kale. So this is my Swiss chard. I believe I got this from the Edmonds Farmers Market. So I like a green leaf Swiss chard and a purple leaf, just for some color. And I don't cook this. I chop it up kind of coarse. I put it in my soup once it's done, and then I just ladle it out and garnish it with some basil. Finally, I do add a little bit of red pepper when I'm cooking my mirepoix, just for a little punch to the soup. So let's get started. So this is my soup pot here. I am gonna start by adding a couple tablespoons of my favorite ingredient, extra virgin olive oil. This will not be cooked on high heat. I am using low to medium heat. If you use this on high heat, it will burn. So I'm gonna go ahead, maybe 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Wonderful. And to that, I'm gonna add my mirepoix, my carrots, my celery, and my onion. And I have kind of diced it into pieces this big. Same with my celery. Just little pieces, half moon pieces. My onions are here. So in they go. And again, this is gonna be the base flavor of our minestrone soup. Is usually the holy trinity for any, Italian or French soup. Okay, and I'm gonna give that a little toss. And I'm gonna let this cook down for about maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Note, if you don't actually have celery, feel free to add the celery fronds. So you should save those celery fronds when you're during the week, and you can save it for like a soup base. So I'm going to give this about 5 to 7 minutes. I'm just going to chat about one more thing. So these are finely chopped tomatoes. These are Sardinian. These are delicious. Whatever product you're going to use for your tomatoes, I would recommend make sure it has seeds in it. So when a minestrone soup has those little seeds of tomatoes, it just has such a better flavor. Don't use tomato paste or tomato sauce that does not have seeds in it. These the little seeds of the tomatoes really add for a wonderful flavor and texture. So I love this brand, Posardi. I buy this from PCC. While these cook down, I'm gonna chat about one more thing. For your chard, make sure you remove the central vein in the chard. I kept it on this just a little bit. You can kind of see here, this is the vein. So make sure you remove this. If you put this in your soup, it can be tough and fibrous, and your guests may not like it. Okay, so spicy. Okay, my soup base here is looking fantastic. I basically want my onions to become a little bit translucent, and I want this to become a little bit brown. Once it has browned a little bit to this, I'm gonna add my garlic. So another maybe 2 minutes or so. So far, so good. Now, if you like red pepper flakes, feel free to add them. I'm using half a teaspoon. I like to have a little bite in my soup. If you and your family don't, just omit this. So it's been about 5 to 6 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic. As you can see, I've finely sliced the garlic here. This is about 5 cloves. I'm gonna go ahead and add it in. This is gonna help really add some wonderful aroma to the minestrone soup. And I'm gonna add my red chili flakes. In they go. And I'm gonna add my bay leaf. I like to cook my bay leaf in my mirepoix. It helps the bay leaf kind of break down later on if I add it in now. You can already smell the garlic. It smells fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna take my lid off. Okay, so as you can see the garlic starting to brown towards the bottom of the pan. Right here, these little pieces of garlic. So you want it to get a little bit brownish yellow. This is looking amazing. Just make sure your heat is on low to medium. It should not be on high. I want to add flavor to my soup. I don't want to burn any of my ingredients. Okay, so next goes in my tomatoes. These are again the Sardinian tomatoes, finely chopped tomatoes. I am going to go ahead and add about 12 ounces. So that's half a bottle. I may use more, I don't know yet. Okay, that's great. I'm going to mix the tomatoes in here and let them cook down. And this brand, this is awesome. It has like the perfect color in its tomato. I love it. It's so nicely, it's a great vibrant red. I'm gonna raise my heat just a little. These tomatoes are gonna start to break down slightly. They will pick up flavor from the mirepoix. So I'm gonna cook this. I would cook this for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes with the lid on. So it continues to kind of soften. After this, we are gonna add our navy beans. Half a cup of navy beans. Feel free to use cannellini beans. Traditionally, we use cannellini beans. I happen to have navy beans today. So I'm gonna add that in after this step. And then we're gonna add our broth. And so I have a mushroom broth here. This is my favorite brand. This is Star, the Star brand. You can buy it from Amazon. It's an Italian soup base, and they do vegetable, they do mushroom, they do a bunch of different flavors. I love the mushroom. It's a porcini mushroom. And so mixed with the tomatoes, it adds a wonderful flavor. Okay, so my tomatoes have been cooking for about 3 minutes. I'm gonna lift the lid of my pot. My heat is on low medium. I am looking for the extra virgin olive oil to kind of come to the top. That should be the top layer. Everything else should be kind of sinking to the bottom. If that's the case, my tomatoes have been seasoned really, really well, and they're starting to break down. Okay, so as you can see, you see this like layer of olive oil is kind of glistening. There it is on the top. The tomatoes are cooking really, really well. I love the color. And my carrots still have a little bit of a bite to them. So you can see that wonderful color of the extra virgin olive oil. It's that rich gold color. This looks fantastic. And this smells amazing. Definitely buy a high quality, finely chopped tomato product. You can use fresh tomatoes too if you want. I like to use this particular brand because I know these tomatoes come from a very reputable area. Okay, next I'm gonna go ahead and add my navy beans. Here are my navy beans. I'm gonna add them in. In they go. Great. Give them a stir. Wonderful. Okay. And next goes my broth. So I'm gonna add my mushroom broth to this. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and add a little bit of black pepper. I love black pepper. And I'm just gonna add a pinch of salt. Okay, and I'm gonna cook this for about 15 to 20 minutes on low heat on a simmer. After that time, I'm gonna add my chard in the soup. I don't wanna add my chard right now. If I add my chard now, this is gonna wilt down, it's gonna become a dark green color, and overall, you're not gonna be able to taste it or see it as much. So I like to add this right in the end before I serve it. If you like pasta, you can definitely add some pasta to this. You could add elbows or macaroni pasta, you know, maybe a 1/4 cup of it to the soup. I would cook it ahead of time and then add it in. I don't like pasta in my soup. I love bread. I love to have bread with some extra virgin olive oil. I love toasting it, and I love sinking it in my soup. I love eating my soups that way. So no potatoes and no pasta for me in my soup. But typically that is added. So I'm gonna give this a mix, and then I'm gonna let this simmer for 20 minutes. And I love my minestrone brothy. I like a lot of liquid, and I like some vegetables. If you like more vegetables, feel free to add more. Again, my goal, I like to soak it in with my bread. So the broth is critical to me. It smells fantastic. Okay. So I will leave this alone, let this be 20 minutes. So it's been about 20 minutes. I've turned my heat off, and I'm gonna go ahead, take the lid off, and add my Swiss chard. I don't want my Swiss chard to cook at all. I'm simply gonna put it in, it'll wilt down, but it'll preserve its own color. And you get some wonderful vitamins and some fiber from the Swiss chard too. Okay, so I'm gonna take my lid off, and if you look inside, you'll see that you can see the celery and the carrots and the celery fronds kind of coming to the top. You see this wonderful separation of the extra virgin olive oil at the top. There it is. And then you can see, you know, the tomatoes and everything else kind of going more towards the bottom. But this is what you want. You want the fat source coming up to the top layer of your soup. So this tells me it's cooked very uniformly. I love the color. It smells fantastic. I can smell the garlic. I can smell the sweetness of those Sardinian tomatoes. This really smells fantastic. So in goes my Swiss chard. I'm probably gonna add maybe half of this. In it goes. Break it into smaller pieces just so it's easier to eat afterwards. And you can definitely use kale. If you have kale, that's a good green leaf item to add. You could add spinach. I like the chard. Other vegetables you could add to this soup include peas and zucchini. Those are also very, very delicious. And if your kids are into peas, definitely add the peas. Okay, that's good for me. So I'm actually gonna give this a mix, and then I'm gonna plate it and we get to try it. So I'm gonna give this just a gentle stir. You can see these leaves are basically gonna wilt down from the heat that's already present in the soup. I'm not cooking them at all. But you can tell here, look at these, look at the green color. I mean, this looks fantastic. There's my bay leaf. Definitely take the bay leaf out before you serve it. Great. Okay, so let's plate this. Okay, so I like to ladle a few bowls of my minestrone. I like to garnish it with some flat leaf parsley, some basil, fresh cracked black pepper, and finally, the star of the show, I like to put some extra virgin olive oil just on the top. Use a high quality EVOO if you have one at home. It'll have a fruitier more of a wonderful taste. Okay, so time to plate this. So I'm going to put a couple ladlefuls. You may notice that your beans, they may break down a little bit. That's totally fine if they break down. The beans breaking down will help thicken your soup. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of my flat leaf Italian parsley, my basil, my pepper, okay, so I'm gonna chiffonade my basil. So a little bit of basil goes in. Okay, and then I'm going to add some flat leaf Italian parsley. There's my parsley. Okay. Finally, I'm going to add some fresh cracked black pepper and the star of the show, the extra virgin olive oil, just a teaspoon or so. Great. Time to try our soup. Again, this is our minestrone soup. So I'm going to go ahead, try some soup. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then I will try it with my bread. So, let's see. Okay, so I think the first thing that hits my mouth are those tomatoes. Those tomatoes are so naturally sweet. They are wonderful. They're tart, they're sweet, they're comforting. With the extra virgin olive oil that I used as a finishing oil, this tastes like something I would have in Italy. I love the smells that I'm smelling, the parsley and the basil. They're really contributing to the wonderful aroma and the feel of this dish. I love the texture on my carrots. My carrots have a little bit of a bite to them. They're a little al dente. They're not hard or chewy, and they're not too soft either. They're the perfect balance. I love the celery, the flavors the celery is conveying. I'm gonna try one more bite here. And the onions have kind of wilted down. I'm not getting any texture on the onions, but I can definitely taste them. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and dip my bread in my soup. So I just have ciabatta bread here. I've toasted my ciabatta bread with some extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna give it a dunk here. This is fantastic. The chard is also fantastic. The heat from the soup definitely cooked it down a little bit. It's wilted, but it has a wonderful texture to it. Definitely make this soup, fall soup. You can make it when you're homeschooling. You could have it for lunch. It's nutritious. It's delicious. Kids are gonna love it. Make sure you make this soup. Thank you so much for watching.